So let's settle in. We're going to book 19, which Fagles titles Penelope and Her Guest. We are finally getting Penelope and Odysseus to like meet and talk, as they'd say. As we know Penelope had offered, I want to meet this, stranger who's apparently been treated so fucking abominably in my house, which she scolded Telemachus for, which was so rough for him because he's like, yes, you're right, but also, there's a plan and you don't know there's a plan and I can't tell you the plan and this is very difficult for me. But we do know that Odysseus said, yes, I will meet the queen, but not right now. Basically not when everybody's here and it's just going to rile everyone. I'd rather meet her like when it's a little quieter. When you open them, they no longer care. Oh, yeah, she can be like that. It's true. Did you miss much? No, we're about to start the reading. So yes, one of the big things in this book we can look forward to are the Penelope and beggar Odysseus interactions, which are super interesting. You got good traits. Could you be my husband in disguise? We're also going to get the story of how Odysseus got his name. And for that, you can probably see I have or maybe you can't. Actually, you probably can't because the chat's right there. I have my grandfather's book. Because fun fact, which some people heard earlier, when I was looking at Fagles's footnotes that he has in the back, he actually references my grandfather's book. And I was like, guess I'm gonna have to bring the book out because I wasn't sure if I was gonna have to. And then I'm like, shit, I am gonna have to. It'll be fun. Watching from India. Holy cow. Oh my gosh, I hope I don't throw off your sleep. So it'll be, this is gonna be a good chapter. We're not yet at the slaughter of the suitors. We're still in the lead up. So for anyone who's actually curious, the slaughter of the suitors goes into full force in book 22. It kind of starts kicking off at the tail end of 21. I know, Telemachus is the I do be knowing meme. Poor guy is suffering. Yeah, poor Telemachus. Telemachus is in such an awkward position right now, a different kind of awkward position where he must want to tell his mom. He's like, but I can't because dad said I can't and dad's got a plan. Book 20, the Eurycleus Scar book. I do believe it is this book since we're going to talk about how he got his name, but it might be 20 that's got the scar. Can't remember actually. Holy cow. That was unintentional, but it is true. But okay, everybody settle in. Get your snacks, get your drinks, activities, get your copy of the book, whatever you need. But Mom, Dad said, exactly. We're gonna go into book 19, which is Penelope and Her Guest. To recap everybody, at least with book 18, we've done Odysseus doing the bum fighting. We've discussed how Amphinomus is a psychopath and probably the scariest of all the suitors there, and how he, like all the others, must die. Sorry, not sorry, Agnes. And we also saw Melanto and some of the disloyal maids being hella fucking rude and terrible, and Odysseus was like, what the fluff? We want none of that. Including also linking her with Eurymachus by having them do basically repeated statements. Michaela. No. Spray bottle on standby. That's true. But okay. Michaela, and it's a psychopath. I know. Penelope and Her Guest. I'm from Austria. Oh! Sorry to say I've been listening to stuff on Austria only with regards to World War I, so sorry if that brings up bad memory there. What the fluff? I know. That left the great Odysseus waiting in his hall as Athena helped him plot the slaughter of the suitors. He turned at once to Telemachus, brisk with orders. Now we must stow the weapons out of reach, my boy, all the arms and armor, and when the suitors miss them, and ask you questions, put them off with a winning story. I stowed them away, clear of the smoke, a far cry from the arms Odysseus left when he went to Troy, fire-damaged equipment, black with reeking fumes. And a god reminded me of something darker, too. When you're in your cups, a quarrel might break out. You'd wound each other, shame your feasting here, and cast a pall on your courting. Iron has powers to draw a man to ruin. Which is a hilarious one. He basically says, all right, kid, I'm the master of gab. Time to show me your gift of gab. basically, you know, hide all the weapons. If you're gonna be a smaller force against a larger force, yeah, hide their weapons. And if they ask about it, here's some good excuses, which honestly, some of the excuses are pretty good. Keep it clear of the smoke so there's no fire damage. I mean, we know they had basically kind of a big sort of open, like Great Hall kind of area. There would have been sort of a fire pit in the middle. Yeah, keep them away from that. Don't get them fire damaged. Why was the equipment fire damaged? He's making an excuse. What's essentially he's saying is, oh, well, all of Odysseus' stuff that he left behind has just been hanging here in the hall, and there's been all these fires. It hasn't been cared for properly. So it's not specifically like his equipment is actually fire damaged. It's more just like, oh, you don't want to end up like the king's equipment that's just been sitting here without use and getting, you know, tarnished by smoke and, you know, whatever else comes from disuse, like falling into kind of disrepair. Like, keep your stuff good, so I'm gonna put it away so it's safe, kind of thing. And then the other one being like, by the way, also sometimes when people get drunk they get stupid. That's a good excuse. Let's be real. Let's be real. I mean, I can attest to the one time I ever did tequila shots in college. I don't actually remember what happened, but I got told the next day I was trying to get in a fist fight with somebody. So look, alcohol can make you do stupid things. So there you go. Yeah, so the logic of what Odysseus is telling him is like, the suitors would go, actually, yeah, you know what, good point. Let's keep our stuff in good condition. Also, let's not have us break into some sort of bloody brawl in this way that would then kind of ruin the atmosphere where we're trying to court the queen. Eye roll. Don't get drunk and go on the roof. Absolutely, yeah, do not get drunk and go on the roof. Hold on, you know, I keep emphasizing he's a psychopath. He is a psychopath. Don't try tequila. Just tequila shots. Fight, little wolf, fight me. Apparently. Yeah. Telemachus did as his father's will at once, calling out to his old nurse, Eurycleia, "Quick, dear one, close the women up in their quarters, till I can stow my father's weapons in the storeroom. Splendid gear lying about, neglected, black with soot, since father sailed away. I was only a boy then, so now I must safeguard them from the smoke." So again, like, they're not really fire damaged, they're just like kind of like tarnished. I mean, because anybody could tell you, like, if you've ever watched like painting restorations, or the like, if they hang in an area, or even like cleaning just from cigarette smoke, like, smoke is ultimately going to leave like a film and gonna leave stuff behind. So mostly I think he's just saying it's tarnished. It's been sitting there for 20 years and not moved, so yeah, it's probably a little tarnished. "High time, child," the loving nurse replied. "If only you'd bother to tend your whole house and safeguard all your treasures. Tell me, who's to fetch and carry the torch for you? You won't let out the maids who'd light your way." "Our friend here will," Telemachus answered coolly. "I won't put up with a man who shirks his work, not if he takes his ration from my stores, even if he's miles away from home." They didn't really do great ventilation. Yeah, it's true. That silenced the old nurse. She barred the doors that led from the long hall, and up they sprang, Odysseus and his princely son, and began to carry off the helmets, studded shields, and pointed spears. And Pallas Athena strode before them, lifting a golden lamp that cast a dazzling radiance round about. "Father," Telemachus suddenly burst out to Odysseus. "Oh, what a marvel fills my eyes! Look there, at the sides of the hall, the handsome crossbeams, pinewood rafters, the tall columns towering, all glow in my eyes like flaming fire. Surely a god is here, one of those who rule the vaulting skies." Good job, Telemachus. Thank you for realizing, because man, we know the suitors didn't realize that Pallas Athena was standing next to Odysseus when he kicked the shit out of that, out of Eros. "Quiet," his father, the old soldier, warned him. "Get a grip on yourself. No more questions now. It's just the way of the gods who rule Olympus. Off you go to bed. I'll stay here behind to test the women. Test your mother, too. She in her grief will ask me everything I know. So we know he's sort of tested a couple of the maids. Obviously we had that encounter with Melantho in the previous chapter, which did not go over well in terms of his opinion of them, which, you know, don't blame him. Don't blame him. Test Penelope. Obviously we know his big anxiety has been, is Penelope even there when he gets back? Okay, well, she's still there, but he still kind of wants to see he still wants to talk to her, get her feelings on the situation, because remember, the ghost essentially of Agamemnon, of what has happened to him, that lurks there in the back of his mind, is this could be a very real possibility. So getting her in private and getting to better gauge how she is, that's what he wants. Creating his slaughter list. Yeah, don't give us away. Odysseus very grumpy. Is she faithful? Is she really gonna be super pleased at my return? Like, what's taking the temperature of his wife, basically? How we feeling? Like, obviously he sees how she is in front of the suitors, but that's like a performance, right? He goes, I can better gauge her when it's just her and I, and as much as she will play the queen, she's not in front of the suitors, where she's going to be far more guarded. Wouldn't Telemachus have told him that Penelope is still very loyal? Yeah, of course. But the son isn't going to know everything about the mother. And this is Odysseus going, this is my wife. I'm going to see for myself, and I'm going to get the chance to talk to her. So, and he's been told many times, she's still loyal, she's still this. And I don't really think he truly doubts her loyalty, even though there's always that just tiniest little whisper of doubt, because that's such a terrifying prospect. I mean, the greatest of his fears has pretty much been assuaged that she has not left, and she, thus far we know, has not married. So it seems we're fine, but he just needs that last little bit, I need to talk with her. Like, and you could argue that him testing her is also test, is she gonna clock at me in my disguise? Because we'll get to that. There is an argument about, does she clock him in disguise? If she does, how much? So there is an element of that as well. Under the flaring torchlight through the hall, Telemachus made his way to his own bedroom now, where he always went when welcome sleep came on him. There he lay tonight as well, till dawn's first light, that left the great king still waiting in his hall as Athena helped him plot the slaughter of the suitors. And now down from her chamber came reserved Penelope, looking for all the world like Artemis or golden Aphrodite. Close to the fire, her women drew her favorite chair, with its whorls of silver and ivory, inlaid rings. The craftsman who made it years ago, Icmalios, added a footrest under the seat itself, mortised into the frame, and over it all was draped a heavy fleece. So she has a fancy chair, which honestly sounds comfortable. He even added a footrest. Well done, Icmalius. Here Penelope took her place. Discreet, observant, the women, arms bared, pressing in from their quarters, cleared away the tables, the heaped remains of the feast, and the cups from which the raucous lords had drunk. Raking embers from the braziers unto the ground, they piled them high again with seasoned wood, providing light and warmth. And yet again, Melantho, she can't go away, lashed out at Odysseus. You still here? You pest, slinking around the house at night, leering up at the women. Get out, you tramp. Be glad of the food you got, or we'll sling a torch at you, rout you out at once. A killing glance. Ha! And how different do you think he would have acted if Clytemnestra didn't give Agamemnon exactly what he deserved? I mean, he doesn't think Agamemnon deserved what he got, but do you mean like if, well, I mean, you're talking like if he hadn't seen Agamemnon in the underworld. His greatest fear would always just be that Penelope has left. It's totally valid after 20 years Penelope could have left. Just assumed he's dead, declared him dead, and left. It's a totally valid fear. So that fear is still there, and even then, 20 years, look, it's human nature. He would probably still have doubts. Arms bared isn't bare armed or talking about the hard work they're doing. Let me see. Arms bare. I think it's meant to say that their arms are bare, like they're in short sleeves. Instead of bearing work, because to bear work is B-E-A-R. The B-A-R-E means like bare, like they are bare of clothes or whatever. So probably just saying they're in short sleeves, which we know was a pretty common fashion in the Bronze Age, was these kind of short-sleeved outfits. And then along came Melanto, it's true.
What possessed you, woman? Why lay into me such abuse? Just because I'm filthy, because I wear rags, roving around the country, living hand to mouth. But it's fate that drives me on. That's the lot of beggars, homeless drifters. I too once lived in a lofty house that men admired, rolling in wealth. I'd often give to a vagabond like myself. Whoever he was, whatever need had brought him to my door.
Or maybe without any jewelry. Likely also without any jewelry. But, I mean, bare-armed also just being... The short sleeves were a very, very common... or even sleeveless were pretty common in terms of fashion of the age. But yes, bare-armed also likely they are probably not wearing jewelry. Not when you're about to do work there, but also denoting of status. But I don't know enough about, like, who did or did not wear jewelry in that age. I mean, like, quality of jewelry in terms of, like, what metals are used, what precious stones may be used. Obviously, that speaks to level of wealth, but I don't know if somebody who's a dolos would or wouldn't have jewelry, if only because could they afford it, was really the question. Hit list expanding. True. Murders free.
And crowds of servants I had, and lots of all it takes to live the life of ease to make men call you rich. But Zeus ruined it all. God's will, no doubt. So beware, woman. Or one day you may lose it all. All your glitter that puts your workmates in the shade. Or your mistress may just fly in a rage and dress you down. Or Odysseus may return. There's still room for hope. Or if he's dead as you think and never coming home, well, there's his son, Telemachus. Like father, like son, thanks to god Apollo. No women's wildness here in the house escapes the prince's eye. He's come of age at last.
Which is totally valid. We know that Telemachus has come of age. Okay, so that little bit of thanks to god Apollo. Like, why is he specifically thanking Apollo? So in this case, again, remember that these Greek gods had many things under their purview, hence they have 6 billion epithets. It is Apollo in his aspect of what is known as Apollo Korutropos, who is the rearer of young men. So this Korutropos is an epithet that's actually given to quite a few gods and goddesses in ancient Greece, and it's specifically defined for those deities who in some way under their aspects or properties have their ability to protect young people, whether it be specifically men, specifically women, just children, like what have you. So he's not talking about health, he's talking about like, oh, Apollo is known as a protectorate or rearer of young men. And there's quite a few other Olympians who have this same epithet that's given to them. I think off the top of my head it would be like Athena, Artemis, Demeter, Apollo, Hermes, I think has it. Like that's a handful. Just like even other Olympians have this same epithet because somewhere under their purview is this ability to protect young people of some kind. So that's why he's specifically thanking Apollo there. So he warned. Excuse me. And alert Penelope heard him, wheeled on the maid, and tongue-lashed her smartly. Make no mistake, you brazen bitch. None of your ugly work escapes me, either. You will pay for it with your life. You will. How well you knew. You heard from my own lips that I meant to probe this stranger in our house and ask about my husband. My heart breaks for him. I love when Penelope just goes, we're gonna shut the fuck up now. My favorite bits, Penelope just gets her true moments in these handful of last books post Odysseus' return, because she's so fucking fed up with everyone at this point that it's like, yes. She's so done with everyone at this point. And you can imagine how upset she is with Melantho. I mean, we heard in the earlier book, I mean, she treated Melantho like a whole nother, like, so fondly. Melantho's been there since she was a really young girl. I mean, Penelope would buy her gifts, would treat her extremely well. So, like, to have Melantho betray her, speaking in this horrible way, she's like, you're gonna shut the fuck up, I'm done with you. Like, yes, queen. I love Penelope when she's so, like, absolutely capital D done with all of this bullshit. Yeah, I have a 20-year migraine, I'm done. Yes, the Peg snores for menacing ambiance. Peg supports our queen. She turned to her housekeeper, Eurynome, and said, now bring us a chair and spread it soft with fleece, so our guest can sit and tell me his whole story, and hear me out as well. I'd like to ask him questions, point by point. Eurynome bustled off to fetch a polished chair, and set it down and spread it soft with fleece. Here Odysseus sat, the man of many trials, as a cautious Penelope began the conversation. Stranger, let me start our questioning myself. Who are you? Where are you from? Your city, your parents? My good woman, Odysseus, master of craft, replied, no man in the face of the earth could find fault with you. Your fame, believe me, has reached the vaulting skies. Fame like a flawless king's, who dreads the gods, who governs a kingdom vast, proud and strong, who upholds justice true. And the black earth bears wheat and barley, trees bow down with fruit, and the sheep drops lambs and never fail, and the sea teems with fish, thanks to his decent, upright rule. And under his sovereign sway, the people flourish. So then, here in your own house, ask me anything, but please don't search out my birth, my land, or you'll fill my heart to overflowing even more as I bring back the past. I am a man who's had his share of sorrows. It's wrong for me, in someone else's house, to sit here moaning and groaning. Why is she not assuming he was another new suitor? We've established he's a beggar. A beggar is not going to come to be a suitor to the queen. She knows this, she's heard this, like, all of this has been established for her already in past books. He has not announced himself as some sort of, you know, person who's come to woo the queen. He just came for, you know, a meal and probably a place to stay for the night or something. So this has already been established. Give him the chair! To sit here moaning and groaning, sobbing so. It makes things worse, this grieving on and on. One of your maids, or you yourself, might scold me. Think it's just the wine that has doused my wits and made me drown in tears. No, stranger. Wise Penelope demurred. Whatever form and feature I had, what praise I'd won. The deathless gods destroyed that day the Achaeans sailed away to Troy. My husband and their ships, Odysseus. If he could return to tend my life, the renown I had would only grow in glory. Now my life is torment. Look at the griefs some god has loosed upon me. All the nobles who rule the islands round about, Dulichian, Same, and wooded Zakynthus too, and all who lord it in sunny Ithaca itself. They court me against my will. They lay waste my house. So I pay no heed to strangers, suppliants at my door, not even heralds out on their public errands here. I yearn for Odysseus, always. My heart pines away. They rush the marriage on, and I spit out my wiles. A god from the blue it was inspired me first to set up a great loom in our royal halls, and I began to weave. And the weaving fine spun the yarns endless, and I would lead them on. Young men, my suitors, now that King Odysseus is no more, go slowly, keen as you are to marry me, until I finish off this web, so my weaving won't all fray and come to nothing. This is a shroud for old Lord Laertes, for that day when the deadly fate that lays us out at last will take him down. I dread the shame my countrywomen would heap upon me. Yes, if a man of such wealth should lie in state without a shroud for cover. My very words, and despite their pride and passion, they believed me. So by day I'd weave at my great and growing web. By night, by the light of torches set beside me, I would unravel all I'd done. 3 whole years I deceived them blind, seduced them with this scheme. Then, when the wheeling seasons brought the 4th year on, and the months waned, and the long days came round once more, then... Was Penelope actually inspired by a god for this trick, or is this always thank the gods for everything positive? In this case, it seems sort of a thank the gods for everything positive. We don't have confirmation that it was a god who gave her the idea. I mean, if a god did give her the idea, it would have been Athena, but it just sort of seems like most of the time the gods have been reasonably, as usual, are kind of hands-off. In this case, it seems the usual must have come from a god. Like, this must be divine inspiration to think of a trick like this. I mean, honestly, it's a pretty good fucking trick. It's pretty daring, too. Even more so, it's amazing that she was able to get away with it for 3, almost 4 years. Then, thanks to my maids, the shameless, reckless creatures, the suitors caught me in the act, denounced me harshly, so I finished it off against my will. They forced me, and now I cannot escape a marriage, nor can I contrive a deft way out. My parents urge me to tie the knot, and my son is galled as they squander his estate. He sees it all. He's a grown man by now, equipped to tend to his own royal house and tend it well. Zeus grants my son that honor. But for all that, now tell me who you are. Where do you come from? You've hardly sprung from a rock or oak like some old man of legend. The master improviser answered slowly. My lady, wife of Laertes' son Odysseus, will your questions about my family never end? All right then, here's my story. Even though it plunges me in deeper grief than I feel now. That's the way of the world. When one has been so far from home, so long away as I, roving over many cities of men, enduring many hardships, still, my story will tell you all you need to know. There's a land called Crete, ringed by the wine-dark sea with rolling white caps, handsome country, fertile, thronged with people well past counting, boasting 90 cities, language mixing with language side by side. First come the Achaeans, then the native Cretans, hardy, gallant in action, then Cydonian clansmen, Dorians living in 3 tribes, and proud Pelasgians last. For the record, things like the Dorians, a lot of these are just other Greek tribes, essentially. So when he says the language is mixing, it seems he's probably talking about like dialects of Greek that are mixing. And these dialects could be pretty reasonably far apart from each other, so it might at times even just totally sound like a different language. What does Penelope... Oh, so that means that Icarius wanted her to remarry. At least that's what she's saying, her parents. So her mother and father seem to be urging her to remarry. What does Penelope mean her parents urge her to not? I doubt Icarius, it's just she just marry one of these awful men. Icarius is not likely saying marry one of these suitors, but remarry in general. Like, it's time. You could probably maybe still bear another kid, but remarry. You know, pass yourself on to the protection of another man. It doesn't have to be one of these suitors who are here. But she's being urged to remarry. Like, they're basically saying this has gone on long enough. Sorry guys, my contact lens, it's dry, so my contact lens is bothering me a little. Sorry, I keep rubbing my eye. Central to all their cities is magnificent Knossos, the site where Minos ruled and each 9th year conferred with Almighty Zeus himself. So, Minos. We know Minos is the mythological and legendary... I have glasses, but I only wear them at night. In the day, I wear my contact lenses. He's the mythological, legendary king of Crete. And in fact, he's so legendary that his name was essentially given to the Minoan civilization that lived and ruled on the island, which of course we didn't start to unearth until the 20th century. That's when archaeologists really started discovering the remains of the palace at Knossos and all of this, and they realized, like, holy shit, this was such a beautifully sophisticated Bronze Age civilization. You need to take a second to grab eye drops. If it starts getting bad, I have some just over there. So Minos is a son of Zeus and Europa, and according to Thucydides, he was said to be the most ancient man known to have built a navy, probably speaking to how the ancient Cretans, these Minoans, were great mariners. I believe both he and Herodotus, or it might have just been Herodotus, also said that Minos was the author of the Cretan constitution, and that's in addition to his role as the founder of essentially its naval supremacy. Obviously not quite to the level, it seems, of something like Athens or even in the classical age or even Rome and all of that, but they were apparently great mariners. So Minos ruled Crete, we know, 3 generations prior to the Trojan War. So the likelihood that anybody would have actually met Minos, at least in terms of Odysseus or the like, not high. And so what he says here about the 9-year cycle, it kind of depends. Even the Greeks were not entirely sure how to read this. They differed slightly in their opinions. So some would say either it meant that he ruled in 9-year cycles, or like Plato understood the line to mean that like every 9th year he went to the cave of Zeus and conferred with the god to then bring back laws to his people. Because some people say, oh, well, every 9 years he'll then only rule. And it's like, wait, that makes no sense. So the 9 years is actually kind of important also when you consider the myth of the Minotaur, because it was every 9 years that Minos would demand from King Aegeus the sacrifice of the 7 young men and 7 young women to then send into the labyrinth. So 9 is a number with regard to Minos that just comes up a lot. Oh, my eyes get dry, it's fine. And this is my toric lens, so this is my eye that has an astigmatism. And I think somebody had asked, but you are correct, that yes, together with another Cretan king that has been mentioned earlier in the Odyssey, which is Rhadamanthus, he is in some texts one of 3 gods of the 3 judges of the underworld. And we if you go back to the underworld chapter, I believe, or it was the chapter before, then we talked about it a little bit with regard to Rhadamanthus. Sorry, hold on. I am briefly going to go get my eye drops because this eye is quite dry. Okay. There we go. Okay. This is a very comfy chair. Alright, so you mentioned Minos. Minos, father of my father, Deucalion, that bold heart, beside myself Deucalion sired Prince Idomeneus, who set sail for Troy in his beaked ships of war, escorting Atreus' sons. My own name is Aethon. I am the younger born. My older brother's a better man than I am. Now, it was there in Knossos that I saw him, Odysseus, and we traded gifts of friendship. A heavy gale had landed him on our coast, driven him way off course, rounding Malier's cape when he was bound for Troy. He anchored in Amnisus, hard by the goddess's cave of childbirth and labor, that rough harbor, barely riding out the storm. He came into town at once, asking for Idomeneus, claiming to be my brother's close, respected friend. Too late. 10 or 11 days had already passed since he set sail for Troy in his beaked ships.
So I took Odysseus back to my own house, gave him a hero's welcome, treated him in style, stores in our palace made for princely entertainment. As for his comrades, all who'd shipped with him, I dipped into public stock to give them barley, ruddy wine, and fine cattle for slaughter, beef to their heart's content. Ha, ha, ha. A dozen days they stayed with me there, those brave Achaeans, penned up by a north wind so stiff that a man, even on dry land, could never keep his feet. Some angry spirit raised that blast, I'd say. Then, on the 13th day, the wind died down, and they set sail for Troy. Peg, are you gonna come up? Come on. Okay. I'm sitting over here. There. Chill. Relax, my pumpkin. Thank you. Falsehoods all, but he gave his falsehoods all the ring of truth. As she listened on, her tears flowed and soaked her cheeks. As the heavy snow melts down from the high mountain ridges, snow the west wind piles there, and the warm east wind thaws, and the snow, melting, swells the rivers to overflow their banks. So she dissolved into tears, streaming down her lovely cheeks, weeping for him, her husband. Sitting there beside her, Odysseus' heart went out to his grief-stricken wife. But under his lids, his eyes remained stock still. They might have been horn or iron. His guile fought back his tears. So essentially, it's taking everything in him to not react, as I say. Horn or iron, it is taking an almost inhuman will for him to not react to her right now. And she, when she'd had her fill of grief and weeping, turned again to her guest with this reply. Now, stranger, I think I'll test you, just to see if there in your house with all his friends in arms, you actually entertained my husband, as you say. Come, tell me what sort of clothing he wore. What kind of man was he? What of the men who followed in his train? This is smart. We know we were told by Eumaeus that tons of people have come to say, oh yeah, I saw Odysseus, and yeah, he was here and here, and she's had so many charlatans essentially come to her, so now she's like, I'm gonna test you. And her doing this by this point, it's very reasonable. Ah, good woman, Odysseus, the great master of subtlety, returned. How hard it is to speak after so much time apart. Why, some 20 years have passed since he left my house and put my land behind him. Even so, imagine the man as I portray him. I can see him now. King Odysseus. He was wearing a heavy woolen cape, sea purple in double folds with a gold brooch to clasp it, twin sheaths for the pins, the face, a work of art, a hound clenching a dappled fawn in its front paws, slashing it as it writhed. All marveled to see it solid gold as it was, the hound slashing, throttling, the fawn in its death throes, hoofs flailing to break free. I noticed his glossy tunic, too, clinging to his skin like the thin, glistening skin of a dried onion. Silky, soft, the glint of the sun itself. Women galore would glaze on it with relish, and this too. Bear it in mind, won't you? I've no idea if Odysseus wore these things at home, or a comrade gave him them as he boarded ship, or a host, perhaps. The man was loved by many. There were few Achaeans to equal him, and I gave him a bronze sword myself, a lined cloak, elegant, deep red, and a fringed shirt as well, and I saw him off on his long-bent ship of war in lordly style. Something else. He kept a herald beside him, a man a little older than himself. I'll try to describe him to you best I can. Round-shouldered he was, swarthy, curly-haired. His name...
Would the purple be from purple snails? Oh, you mean to make... Are those the snails that make what's the color, the pigment known as Tyrian purple. I know that's arguably one of, if not the most expensive pigments in the world. I don't know. So Summers, a good thing to remember is that the Greeks didn't really have words for color in terms of hue, so like blue, red, purple, green, yellow, like they didn't really have these words at this point. So they would describe things in terms of like light and dark, or it's why they say like wine dark seas. So it's likely whatever word is being used in the Greek, Fagles is sort of transliterating it to a color to say like, yeah, it must be related somehow similarly to being like sea purple or whatever, to be like, oh, it's a fancy cloak. And I mean, he is royalty, he gets the fancy one. You purple snail rich. Exactly, like it's a very, Eurybates is Eurylochus. No, because he mentions a herald who's a little older. And Eurylochus, we know, is not a herald. This might have just been another member of his crew who's only getting named now. So no, it doesn't seem like it's supposed to be Eurylochus. Their names are totally different, so that would be a weird mistake to make. Also, he wouldn't describe Eurylochus as a herald. But I don't know if that is... yeah, those are the ones... okay, so those are the ones that make Tyrian purple. I don't know if he's specifically referring to something like Tyrian purple. I mean, if he is, damn. That's a nice cloak. Because I've seen the process of how there's a guy who like tries to essentially make Tyrian purple as much as he can from using the snails and that particular thing. It's really wild. Or ocean snails. Oh, interesting. It could be. I don't know. It's difficult to know because again, the Greeks didn't really have words for color. So it could have been something like that particular purple or just some sort of bluish, purplish, darkish color. The editors, as they would call themselves, or translators, kind of have to fuss and take their best guess. And Odysseus prized him most of all his men. Their minds worked as one. His words renewed her deep desire to weep, recognizing the strong, clear signs Odysseus offered. But as soon as she'd had her fill of tears and grief, Penelope turned to her guest and said, "Now, stranger, much as I pitied you before, now in my house, you'll be my special friend, my honored guest. I am the one myself who gave him the very clothes that you describe. I brought them up from the storeroom, folded them neatly, fastened the golden brooch to adorn my husband, Odysseus. Never again will I embrace him striding home to his native land. A black day it was when he took ship to see that cursed city. Destroy, I call it. I hate to say its name." So, this is a pretty wild bit of punning. So the destroy, I call it, I hate to say his name. So, since they were so close, I mean, he could have passed during the war, Madisam. He might not have even survived Troy, for all we know. So, what Fagles has done here is that particular phrase, destroy, I call it, I hate to say its name. It's a rendering that was done by T.E. Lawrence in his translation of the Odyssey for this very particular phrase. So in Greek, she calls the city that she does not wish to mention Kako Ilion, which is a combination of the Greek word for evil, kakos, with the name Ilion, which is an alternative name for Troy. Obviously, trying to turn that into English is extremely difficult, so going for destroy. Honestly, if we're going to try to pun, that's not that bad. And I kind of applaud Fagles for going, you know what? T.E. Lawrence kind of already did it the best we could do. I don't think I could outdo that. But it is a pun and a wordplay in the Greek, and they're doing their best to mimic that in English, even though it's obviously very difficult because the languages are quite different. I call them Des and Troy. Yeah, literally, they were doing the Des and Troy before Carl Urban got to do it, which, my mans. Witty as fuck pun. It's a really good pun. And so again, yeah, like, honestly, kudos to Fagles for noting, like, T.E. Lawrence did it, and honestly, he did it pretty well. I'm just kind of gonna borrow the way that he does it because I don't think I can do better. And honestly, props to T.E. Lawrence, because that's not bad in trying to, like, replicate the wordplay that's happening there and still get the meaning across. Like, you know what? We give props where they're due. Ah, my queen. The man of craft assured her. In my copy, she also calls Troy the nameless city. Yeah, so she clearly doesn't want to name it. And she obviously never calls it by its proper name, hence it's called Kakoilion, where she's using that alternative name for Troy, Ilion, which hence we have the work, the Iliad, the Troy story, the story of Troy. So she, yeah, I mean, and we've talked about so many times how these songs of Cleos and hearing about this, it's all, and so much of even this work, it's all about grief. It would be hard for, I mean, at this point, I can imagine it's extremely difficult for her to even say the word Troy without wanting to fall into absolute weeping. I mean, she can barely manage hearing tales of it. Trying to say the name, it's probably like a big hard lump in her throat. She's like, I'm not even gonna call it that. She sees it as just this evil city that she doesn't want to name because it just, like, she sees it as this thing that destroyed her happiness, which, I mean, yeah, we get. He tried his best. Oh, for God's sake. You know what? Just for that pun, that was a spray of delight. Yeah, the Odyssey, Troy story too, but this time it's personal. I mean, it was personal. Troy was personal, just not for Odysseus. It was personal for Menelaus. Very personal. Troy to Mort. Oh my God, you're all terrible in the best way. For God's sake. Let's see. My queen, the man of craft assured her, noble wife of Laertes' son, Odysseus. Ravage no more your lovely face with tears, or consume your heart with grieving for your husband. Not that I'd blame you, ever. Any woman will mourn the bridegroom she has lost, lain within love and borne his children too, even though he was no Odysseus, a man like a god, they say. But dry your tears and take my words to heart. I will tell you the whole truth and hide nothing. I've heard that Odysseus now, at last, is on his way. He's just in reach of this Thesprotian country. The man is still alive, and he's bringing home a royal hoard of treasure, gifts he won from the people of those parts. His crew, he lost his crew and hollow ship on the wine-dark waters of Thrinacia Island. Zeus and Helios raged, dead set against Odysseus, for his men-at-arms had killed the cattle of the sun. So down to the last hand they drowned in crashing seas. But not Odysseus. Clinging tight to his ship's keel, the breakers flung him out onto dry land, on Scheria, the land of Phaeacians, close kin to the gods themselves. And with all their hearts they prized him like a god, showered the man with gifts, and they'd have gladly sailed him home unscathed. In fact, Odysseus would have been here beside you long ago. But he thought it the better, shrewder course to recoup his fortunes roving through the world. At sly profit-turning, there's not a man alive to touch Odysseus. He's got no rival there. So I heard from Phaedon, king of Thesprotia, who swore to me as he poured libations in his house. The ship's hull down and the shipmates set to sail to take Odysseus home to native land. But he shipped me off before. A Thesprotian cutter chanced to be heading for Dulichion rich in wheat, but he showed me all the treasure Odysseus had amassed, enough to make a man in 10 generations of his heirs. So great the wealth stored up for him in the king's vaults. But Odysseus, he made clear, was off at Dodona then, to hear the will of Zeus that rustles forth from the gods' tall leafy oak. How should he return after all the years away to his own beloved Ithaca? Openly or in secret? And so the man is safe, as you can see, and he's coming home soon. He's close at hand. He won't be severed long from king and country. No, not now. Oh, sorry, not king and country, kin and country. Woo! Whoops. I give you my solemn binding oath. I swear by Zeus, the first, the greatest god. By Odysseus' hearth, where I have come for help, all will come to pass. I swear, exactly as I say, true. This very month, just as the old moon dies and the new moon rises into life, Odysseus will return. Yeah, say if I was Odysseus, how would you want me to pull up? Like openly or like on the DL and a secret doing a snick through the palace? If only, reserved Penelope exclaimed, everything you say would come to pass. You'd soon know my affection, know my gifts. Any man you meet would call you blessed. And so we, again noting, reserved Penelope exclaimed. I mean, honestly, Odysseus is telling her everything that she would want to hear, but she's heard it so many times before. Like, how many times has she been told, oh, Odysseus is on his way, Odysseus is coming home? Like, she's so firmly at this point, I think, like, she's holding on to hope, but she almost can't bear to hold on to that hope because it's so painful when it turns out to be a lie, you know? Will the gifts Odysseus brings back be enough to not only make up for what he lost to the suitors and the ship going down, but turn a profit? Very likely. It is highly likely that what he was gifted with was quite a lot. I mean, it was prophesied he would come back with even more than he was bringing back from Troy, which was going to be quite a lot of booty, if we will. That was going to be quite a lot of treasure. Even though, yes, it was being split among him and all of the men in the various ships. They each would have had all of their own, basically, portion. You divvy out the war spoils. But it was prophet essentially said that if, you know, when he goes to the Phaeacians, he will come home with even more than he would have already been bringing back. So yeah, he's likely coming in and he's probably going to turn, even if it's a small profit, he's going to turn a profit. True, add in what Telemachus gained. We know that Telemachus gained some good stuff from both Nestor and from Menelaus. I mean, Menelaus and Helen gifted him some really beautiful stuff, so that's being added to the household funds, basically. So they're coming in, even if they're only turning a small profit, a profit on the heels of all the shit that they've been enduring, because again, like also tallying in for shit that the suitors have cost them, that's a lot of treasure. Yeah, we rich. It's gonna be rich. They might likely come back to near status quo, again, probably a little ahead. But that's a lot of stuff. Like, can't confirm exactly how not in the red they are, basically. But it's clearly enough that they're not going to be in the red. They will not be suffering, even with all that they've lost from the suitors eating them out of house and home for years. In essence, very rich. Yeah. Look, war could cost you your life, but usually you were coming home with something. And even same with the other men who sailed with Odysseus, could have sailed either with promises of they're going to be sharing the spoils, but oftentimes they would be like promised, hey, we'll gift you land or something, what have you. So war was business. Because nobody had a standing army. So it was, you basically are constantly essentially paying for mercenaries in a way. Oh yeah, Penelope did scam some gifts off the suitors. We've already started the recouping, guys. God, we love Penelope. Odysseus, but my heart can sense the way it will go. Odysseus, I tell you, is never coming back, nor will you ever gain your passage home. For we have no masters in our house like him, at welcoming in or sending off an honored guest. Odysseus, there was a man, or was he all a dream? But come, women, wash the stranger and make his bed, with bedding, blankets, and lustrous spreads to keep him warm, till dawn comes up and takes her golden throne. Then tomorrow at daybreak, bathe him well, rub him with oil, so he can sit beside Telemachus in the hall, enjoy his breakfast there. And anyone who offends our guest beyond endurance, he defeats himself. He's doomed to failure here, no matter how raucously he raves and blusters on. For how can you know, my friend, if I surpass all women in thoughtfulness and shrewd good sense, if I'd allow you to take your meals at Hull, so weather-beaten, clad in rags and tatters? Our lives are much too brief. If a man is cruel by nature, cruel in action, the mortal world will call down curses on his head while he is alive, and all will mock his memory after death. But then, if a man is kind by nature, kind in action, his guests will carry his fame across the earth, and people all will praise him from the heart.
Wait, my queen, the crafty man objected. Noble wife of Laertes' son, Odysseus. Blankets and glossy spreads. They're not my style. Not from the day I launched out in my long-oared ship and the snowy peaks of Crete went fading far astern. I'll lie, as I've done through sleepless nights before. Many a night I've spent on rugged beds afield, waiting for dawn to mount her lovely throne. Nor do I pine for any footbaths either. Of all the women who serve your household here, no one will touch my feet. Unless perhaps there's some old retainer, a soul of trust, someone who's borne as much as I have borne. I wouldn't mind if she would touch my feet. Dear friend, the discreet Penelope replied, never has any man so thoughtful of all the guests in my palace come from foreign parts, been as welcome as you, so sensible, so apt in every word you say. I have just an old woman, seasoned, wise, who carefully tended my unlucky husband, reared him, took him into her arms the day his mother bore him. Frail as the woman is, she'll wash your feet. Up with you now, my good Euryclea, come and wash your master's. Equal in years. Odysseus must have feet and hands like his by now. Hardship can age a person overnight. So, the way this is written in Fagles, the come and wash your masters, ... equal in years. So the ellipsis, that pause, is very deliberate. Okay, this pause, which was done by Fagles, allows the reader to imagine for a second Penelope has penetrated Odysseus's disguise. And it's an attempt to reproduce a similar effect that Homer would have produced for the ears of his audience, but through Greek word order rather than a pause. So the way that he ordered the words in Greek would give the listener a sense of, oh, did she clock? Oh, did she clock? Did she just clock? And while you can't really do that in English, if you add an ellipsis, a pause, you create the same effect. So kudos to Fagles for that. I will say, it is debated, but generally agreed upon in most of the scholarship that she knows or she heavily suspects. Never mind. Yeah, you're getting to me. It's debated, but generally agreed upon that Penelope, if not fully confident in her belief that this dude is her husband in disguise, she has a really strong suspicion. Were nursemaids common at this time? Would she have been his nursemaid? Mariana, you just arrived! Okay, so Mariana, we are just at the point where we're about to have him talk with you. We haven't done the Euryclea scene yet. We're like right in about to hit the Euryclea scene. So it's this part where Penelope says, up with you now, my good old Euryclea, come and wash your masters equal in years. And I'm talking about how I guess in Fagles did this ellipsis, this pause, because the Greek word order implies that, oh, did Penelope clock the Odysseus disguise? But obviously you can't really do that in English, so in English you add a pause to create the same effect of, oh, has she clocked that that's Odysseus? There's a lot of, in Greek I agree on the ellipses, I have no idea how that's written in English. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. So yeah, Fagles actually very well articulated why he did it. I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah, word order, you can't really do that really in English, so adding the pause creates that same dramatic effect. And I was saying how most scholarship I've seen, while people will debate, it seems most people generally agree that Penelope, again, if not fully confident in belief, has a very strong suspicion that this beggar is in fact her husband who's returned home. Now we as the audience know the truth, but we also know that Odysseus specifically did not want to outright show up as Odysseus, and he didn't want to let his wife in on the plan. So right now only the gods and his son officially know about this whole deceit that's happening. But show me your thighs. I'll know for sure. But back when I was doing that initial list through Epic, I noted that Penelope is the smartest human in the Odyssey. She is cleverer even than Odysseus, as we will see. It's going to be later proven that she is smarter than him because she tricks him. So the idea that she has not at least an extremely strong suspicion that this is her husband seems extremely unlikely. Like, I rolled the idea that she's at least like 98% sure this is her husband. Euryclea, Anticlea, very similar names, kind of similar to his life. Is that intentional? I don't know if
that's intentional. I think it's just that Clea is a common female ending for names. I don't know if it's intentional that those two characters have the same ending on their name. I think it's just that it's a common feminine name ending. Like Kleos for men, they have Clea, right? I think that's just all it is. Granted, I could be wrong. But yeah, it does feel so appropriate that she's the only person in the entirety of Odyssey is the one who's going to ultimately outwit the man who is 100% known for his metis, you know, for his craft and his cunning. And she's like, and I can out-metis that boy. Either she thinks this is her husband or a god in disguise to help pave the way. Yeah, that would very be her. That's why I say I'm like, I don't think she's 100% certain, but she could maybe be thinking this is a god in disguise. So that's her other... Oh yeah, metis means like cunning or craft, so, and thought and all of that. So yeah, exactly, Game Wizard. She's pretty certain this is either her husband or it's a god who's given her a big hints and laying it on thick. So, I mean, good either way. She's got a suspicion. Eurylochus and Euryclea. I think my question got lost. I talked about rearing. Oh, sorry. Did I not answer? She was his nursemaid, and yes, I mean nursemaids have been common, especially in like royal houses, kind of throughout time. So yeah, it does seem she is his like old nursemaid. She also seems, I think, might have been the nursemaid for Telemachus, but I'm not entirely certain of that. At bare minimum, she knows that backstory was BS. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is not subtle. But are you a human or a god? And it'd be rude to interrogate, are you a god? So she's just rolling with it, going like, you know what? I think sun's coming up for me. At that name, the old retainer buried her face in both hands, burst into warm tears, and wailed out in grief. Huh. Oh wait. Oh yeah, no, I'm right. Oh my child, how helpless I am to help you now. How Zeus despised you more than all other men, God-fearing man that you were. Never did any mortal burn the old thunderer such rich thigh bones offerings charred and choice, never as many as you did, praying always to reach a ripe old age and raise a son to glory. Now you alone he's robbed of your homecoming day. Just so, the women must have mocked my king far away when he stopped at some fine house, just as all these bitches, stranger, mock you here. Almost same words as Athena, book 1, when she talked to Zeus about Odysseus' situation. Yes, which we love. Euryclea is our girl, she's our goat, we love her. Because you shrink from their taunts, their wicked barbs, you will not let them wash you. The work is mine. Icarius' daughter, wise Penelope, bids me now, and I am all too glad. She's basically like, don't listen to these hoes, I got you, dude. I get you, man. You've lived a hard life. Don't listen to these bitches. I'm here for you. We love Euryclea. I will wash your feet, both for my own dear queen and for yourself. Your sorrows wring my heart. And why? Listen to me closely. Mark my words. Many a way-worn guest has landed here, but never, I swear, as one so struck my eyes. Your build, your voice, your feet. Your feet, Gaia's feet, they always appear out of nowhere. You are like Odysseus. To the life. Old woman, wily Odysseus countered. That's what they all say who've seen us both. We bear a striking resemblance to each other, as you have had the wit to say yourself. He's like, oh shit, fuck, I didn't think this through. Hodas! Feet! I know, feet appear just when you least expect it. The old woman took up a burnished basin she used for washing feet and poured in bowls of fresh cold water before she stirred in hot. Odysseus, sitting full in the firelight, suddenly swerved round to the dark, gripped by a quick misgiving. Soon as she touched him, she might spot the scar. The truth would all come out. Bending closer, she started to bathe her master. Then, in a flash, she knew the scar. Yeah, Odysseus, abort, abort, oh God, panic, this is bad, this is not good. Ah! Weird question, why cold before hot? I'm used to hot first. Just cold before hot. No real rhyme or reason. Probably because it's, who knows? Odysseus was stupid with love with Penelope. He knew that she knew. Come on, oh yeah. Oh yeah, he's like, that's my wife, she's so smart. He forgot about his scar. I mean, he a little love drunk. That scar, I know that scar. Wait, if she knows, oh no! I know, yeah, the abort. That old wound, made years ago by a boar's white tusk when Odysseus went to Parnassus, out to see Autolycus and his sons. The man was his mother's noble father, one who excelled the world at thievery, that and subtle, shifty oaths. Hermes gave him the gift, overjoyed by the thighs of lambs and kids he burned in the gods' honor. Hermes, the ready partner in his crimes. Now, Autolycus once visited Ithaca's fertile land to find his daughter's son had just been born. Eurycleia set him down on the old man's knees as he finished dinner, urging him, Autolycus, you must find a name for your daughter's darling son. The baby comes as the answer to her prayers. Did Athena make a mistake not covering the scar when she made Odysseus' disguise, or did she intentionally leave it there for moments like this? She's never seemed to have hidden away scars before. Most men would probably wear their scars with pride, as it is often, especially something like that. It's the sign of, I was in a great hunt, I was, knackered by a boar, but I lived and I killed the boar. I don't think anyone thought about the scar. Because it was like, you usually keep people's scars. And it would add, also, if he's a beggar, I mean, why wouldn't he have tons of scars? It's just, this happens to be a very particular scar. He's the dumbest smart boy alive. You, my daughter, and you, my son-in-law, Autolycus replied. Give the boy the name I tell you now. Just as I have come from afar, creating pain for many, men and women across the good green earth, so let his name be Odysseus, the son of pain, a name he'll earn in full. Excelling at thievery and subtle shifty oaths sounds like a bad thing. Why is she talking about it like it's something to brag about? So Autolycus was a legendary thief. So much so it was even said that I believe it's because the larger part of water is that's the water thing. He's a legendary thief. Like, he's known for thievery on a level that feels inhuman. It was even, some of the stories would say, oh, he could transform himself, or he could make the objects he stole invisible. Like, it's actually cunning on a level that they kind of marvel at. It's just so fascinating to see. The subtle shifty oaths, saying he's blessed by Hermes, essentially. So he's good at, almost as in a modern day, some people might say, like, he does the face speak, where he knows how to choose his words extremely carefully so he never gives himself away or anything else like that. But he became so known as a legendary thief that it's like you likely knew it was him. It's what you'd expect from a son of Hermes. Yes, although in the Odyssey we don't specifically denote him as a son of Hermes. He just says Hermes loves all the sacrifices that this guy gave to him, which would make sense. Hermes is the god of, travelers and thieves, so it makes sense. But it is other texts we know that say, oh, he is actually a son of Hermes. So while that is not specifically mentioned in the Odyssey, almost all later sources that I've read, Odysseus remembers Autolycus in Book 9 is the same way, pretty much. Yeah, it's like, man, that guy knew how to choose his words carefully, and he was a really good fucking thief. Which we know Odysseus has to learn post the cattle situation. His big thing is learning how to choose his words far more carefully. Like, instead of just being clever for the sake of clever, like the autist thing, that had consequences. So, at that point, we have to turn to this. Odysseus comes from a family of genius tricksters, and he's a great trickster too. Yeah, the point is, we're saying it's in the genetics. It's not just him, it's in the genetics. So, the name Odysseus may be associated with this Greek verb called ODYSSEY, meaning to feel anger toward or to rage or hate. However, this verb appears in the function of what grammatically is called the middle voice, which is a cross between the active and the passive, implying that Odysseus is not only an agent of rage of hatred, but also its target as well. So he is both perpetrator and victim. So I'm going to go here, which obviously when we talk about the middle voice, man in the middle voice, the Grandfather Book Unleashed, which I'm going to do my best here. Which I will say, Mariana, you'll appreciate that even in here, it says, my grandfather says, he calls himself Aeton, grandson of King Minos from Crete, and then in parentheses, again, the land of liars. Which, I'll do my digression. Yeah, I know. Let's see here. I'm trying to get to the part where we start. I think it's a couple things. I want to say, he does talk a bit about Autolycus, so I want to mention it. Oh, here we go. Okay. So he translates these particular lines. Now, Autolycus, you yourself, autos, devise the name to give your own child's child, for he is Palearetus. To her, Autolycus in turn responded with these words, my son-in-law and daughter, call him by the name I say. My life to this point has been marked by the hatred, Odysseamenus, of many people, both men and women, all over the bountiful earth. So let his name be Odysseus, and in brackets he says, hate. Why is Crete called a place of liars? Neo Batrachus, you have to go back. I can't go into it now. It has to do with a logic paradox. So that a couple books ago, we referenced it. Whatever's the book where he first lands on Ithaca and meets Eumaeus, we talked about the logic paradox, which leads to the idea that all men from Crete are liars. So I can't really go into it in depth now, but it has to do with a very famous logic paradox. And it seems that Homer gave us one of the earliest examples of this particular logic paradox. Yeah, the logic paradox, we talked about it in the Discord. But if you, in terms of book clubs, if you go back a handful of books, you'll hear us talk about it in a bit more detail because Mariana and I were like geeking out over it. Yeah, it's a logic paradox. It says all Cretans are liars, basically. So let's see. We shall return to the meeting of Palearetus, which I have not translated above later in our discussion. For the present, the first point to be made is that in addressing Autolycus, Euryclea is made to set the stage for Odysseus' significant naming by a play upon Autolycus' name. Autolyk, autos, you, yourself, self-wolf, devise the name. Note that for scientific etymology, the relationship between the two elements of Autolycus' name is not clear, and a few scholars hold that the last element should be derived from the word for light and not the word for wolf, but that's an argument for the linguistic scholars, not for me. We are invited to inspect the name of Autolycus for significance, especially in light of what has just been said of him by the narrative voice, and what he is shortly to say of himself. Autolycus is the unsocialized individualist, autos, par excellence, living wolf-like on the fringes of society, a cunning predator. His greatest skills, thievery and equivocation, gifts of Hermes, are perversions of the two essential bonds of social existence, exchange of material goods and the oath of trust. If we consider another fundamental feature of human social existence, which is the constraints associated with the exchange of women, then another story told of him, though not in Homer, fits the pattern of a life lived with little concern for the norms of the group. He was said to have secretly sent Anticlea to the bed of his house guest Sisyphus, despite her betrothal to Laertes. Now this, I can't remember, he is a lone wolf. Yeah, I can't remember, I believe he would make the point, but the difference between Athena's species use and Euryclea's here is that Athena uses odusomai as a verb. Yeah, well, Euryclea doesn't. I think he's gonna make that point. The whole thing with Sisyphus, I think that's a play where it's mentioned. It's a classical era play. It's one of the wolf motifs run in the family. It doesn't really run in the family. It's only with Autolycus. It's not there for Odysseus. It's not there with Telemachus. The little wolf thing is something that Jorge made up, I think, just to reference Autolycus, but wolf motifs aren't really shown throughout the rest of them, at least in their naming schemes. None of their names refer to it. But the whole thing with the Sisyphus story, I think it's a play. Mariana can probably check me if I'm wrong. I think it's a tragedy where they do the whole thing of, oh, he's actually the son of Sisyphus. But that's what my grandfather's mentioning. That's not in Homer, obviously. What is more, he does not belong to a demos, nor does he dwell in a polis or an astur. So basically, Autolycus does not live in a society. He does not live in a city, he doesn't live in a village or a town, but somewhere on the rugged slopes of Mount Parnassus, and a narrative otherwise obsessed with genealogy is curiously silent about his lineage, even in this passage where Hermes is declared to be his benefactor and avid supporter. But there is no mention that Hermes is his father, as in a Hesiotic fragment that we know, right? There is then a measure of irony in this picture of the outlaw engaged in the essentially social act of naming, and in that very act declaring his own hostile distance from the human community. It's another tradition, but I can't see where. We'll check. Yeah, I think it's a play. Mariana, the Sisyphus thing, I think it's a play. I think it's a tragedy, because I think I've mentioned it before somewhere. I think it's a like what springing is to mind is somewhere it's obliquely referenced in like a tragedy. The angry hatred that exists between Autolycus and society then becomes the source of Odysseus's name. In this, there is much to concern ourselves with, but let us start with a question that has exercised philologists since the time of the Alexandrians. Who is the subject and who is the object of the hatred expressed in the word Odyssemenos, in what for here is line 407, where we are here. Now, Magron further notes his translation above, my life has been marked by the hatred of many people, is deliberately equivocal to reflect this problem. Is Odyssemenos passive hatred as interpreted by the scholiasts and most scholarship up to the turn of the 20th century? Or is it active, what would also be called the middle dependent, or hater, as unequivocally in all its other uses in this epic, specifically noting Athena's pun in book 1. So yes, Mariana, he does get to the point that like it is very specifically pretty much an active verb in the beginning. I hope Grandpa in Books knows not only about your amazing book. Aww, thank you, Clover. He's gonna have fun when I tell him I was reading from this to you guys, because he's still shocked that we even looked at this book during the Cyclops book. Aeschylus seems. I knew it was a tragedy, and of course it's Aeschylus. Yeah, no, my grandpa was honestly shocked that we referred to this in the Cyclops chapter, because he really will say he wrote this book for other classicists. It's not for laymen. That's why I'm like doing my best to choose parts that hopefully make sense, but if anybody gets lost, don't feel bad. He meant this for classicists. This is because we're having a character living outside society in a positive way while the Cyclops are represented in a bad. Well, he's sort of positive, but also he's on the fringe. It's not always seen as positive. It's seen more as deeply ironic. I think it's mostly because at the same time, Autolycus is still in other ways participating in various societal rituals. He just usually doesn't interact with people much in general, but the Cyclops just absolutely just went bouldering through, fuck your rituals, fuck all that. Oh, thank you. I try. I'm trying. Though Philoctetes, where is Jay? He should have known. I know. Philoctetes. Of course it's in Philoctetes. I really need to read that play again. I know. But yes, Mariana, you will be happy we did make reference to how Athena's bit in book 1 is specifically being used as an active verb. Of course, he brought it up. So, it must have been so pretty Laertes didn't mind her family. I mean, pretty much, yeah. Reminds me of the textbooks I've read for my uni, but with the knowledgeable friends next to me. Oh, yay, good. So, is Autolycus the hated or the hater? So the scholar Stanford believes that the change in interpretation resulted from a change in scholarly perspective from a primarily ethical way of viewing the Odyssey to a more scientifically linguistic one. So basically, how are you reading it? What viewpoint are you taking while analyzing the Odyssey? When you get into when you get into language, that's even a whole nother, like, there's almost like subgenres of philological or linguistic study. No, Stanford, no, I know. He says, the latter view, I would argue, might be more aptly characterized as statistical in the sense that the meaning of a word derived from its usage in a selection of other texts. He's basically saying, yeah, so that's what Stanford argues, but I'm going to actually argue this. I know. We don't really delve into Stanford. So, and he basically is, he's going into sort of the history of how they argued this word. So is it passive or is it active? But, he's going through a whole, is this book still in print? I think you can find it, but it might be hard. You know what? If I can, I'll find a link maybe on like Amazon to find it. I'm not sure. There's a lot of scholarly, like going through all sorts of different scholars. I will say, Mariana, you'd appreciate that in the footnote, he gets quite snippy with Stanford. So all of this basically to say that depending upon what era you're in and how you want to look at this, again, this word can be active or passive. So it's like, how do you read it? And he's kind of, what is the name of the book? It is called Man in the Middle Voice, Name and Narration in the Odyssey. It's very short, but I'm truly not gonna lie. There are chunks of this book that I barely understand because he gets very philological. Yeah, because it's an academic text. I have, for those who are in the Discord, I have put a PDF that I believe has the entirety of the text in there. I just happen to obviously have a physical copy because family privilege. So, is this truly a dilemma in which we are compelled to choose between the active and the passive and not, as some other scholars say, have it both ways? It's 95. Yeah, I don't think it's in print. Again, I have put, I believe, the PDF in the Odyssey. It's somewhere, I think, in the Odyssey book club thread. I think has the PDF to this whole book. Yeah. Hold on. I'm going through. There's a lot of... Okay. So basically, what we've been saying about the early state of the middle voice, which is essentially, again, the argument here is that this verb gets used in the middle voice. So it's like between active and passive, you kind of have to use your judgment in a way on it. Yeah, you can get the PDF from Harvard's website. Excellent. It's especially true of so-called verba affectuum, which are verbs expressing emotion, such as ODYSSEY. Such verbs normally appear in the middle voice and do not always make it clear whether the activity associated with the emotion is emanating from the subject of the sentence or directed toward it, or whether there's some kind of reciprocity in a plurality of emotionally implicated individuals. Basically, is it in the library thread? I think it is. Here we go. Another point. That Autolycus should give his grandson so patently inauspicious a name has troubled many scholars. It has actually been urged against the Palmer-Nagy etymology of Achilleus, which is Achilles' proper name, as he who brings distress on the people, that in real life, no son would have given so inauspicious a name, would have been given so inauspicious a name by his father. Yeah, it's a 35-year-old book, and it's like a small print academic book, yeah. Yeah, my grandpa named me Hated Hater. It is true that there is widespread belief in ancient Greece and in many primitive societies in the magical efficacy of the name and in its power to affect the destiny of its bearer. Basically, significant naming is a thing that's been around for a while. A belief that would naturally lead one to avoid inauspicious names. We should note, parenthetically, however, that clear evidence for such a belief in Greek culture is relatively late. Homer shows no trace, at least no explicit trace of it. So this might be something that came about after the Archaic Age. But even beyond that, the objectors in their view of what real life is, irrespective of the problematical relationship between literature and so-called real life, are operating from a patently too narrow frame of cultural verisimilitudes. He's basically saying, oh, grow the fuck up. Like, come on. Like, we do the significant naming thing, guys. It's a thing. My grandpa likes to be really sassy and salty, but it's so, like, written in an academic way that I'm like, We throwing shots. Let's see. Probably among the oldest legendary. Blah 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 blah. So here we go. The academic is true. So going back to the paleoritus, the word that he didn't translate before. When Euryclea presents the infant Odysseus to Autolycus for naming, she tells him that the child is paleoretus. Now, clearly what she means to say that he is much prayed for. The same expression is used in the Homeric hymn to Demeter by Metaneira of her newborn son when she says to Demeter, nurse this child for me, him whom the gods sent me late, and beyond my expectations to me, he is paleoretus. That Euryclea may even be tactfully prompting Autolycus in what name to choose, either paleoretus or aretus, has long been the view of some scholars. And we should not pass on without noting that the child who was much prayed for in the framed story is now the grown man, much prayed for in the framing context. So this child is much prayed for, hey, we have the whole thing that that this man, Odysseus, is much prayed for in his return. This could be a pun of a pun of a pun. It could be. It's an option. And it would make sense in terms of narrative framing. But more to our purpose here, paleoretus is ambiguous and can as easily mean much cursed, which is a close synonym. Fucking Homer and his frickin' synonyms and puns. He's the master of puns. In fact, for the very word ODYSSEY, which motivates the name Autolycus chooses. The root seems to mean simply prayer, leaving it to context to specify beneficent or maleficent intentions. So essentially, the same thing comes with the verb and when it's in the middle voice. Depending on context, do you read it as active or do you read it as passive? Is Odysseus the perpetrator of the hatred or the victim of the hatred? Ultimately, this is all left very deliberately ambiguous, which means scholars have lots of fun and also want to pull their hair out most of the time. Autolycus is a master craftsman in the manipulation of verbal ambiguity into expedient oaths. As we said before, he's subtle in the way he uses his words really well. Therefore, he cannot but be sensitive to the essential polysemy, the duplicity of language, as his grandson will learn to be. So we know Odysseus is going to have to develop this kind of funky talking. In naming Odysseus, then, does he not take his cue from the ambiguity of paleoretus? As Odyssemenos, he himself has been paleoretus, the object of many imprecations. That is the social response to hostility, the very opposite of kleos, which is society's reward to the man without blame. As Penelope remarks in what sounds like a snatch of gnomic wisdom in the frame narrative leading up to the footbath. She says, he who is hostile and whose mind is full of hostility, all men curse. With anguish while he lives, all men mock in death. But the blameless man whose thoughts are blameless, his wide-ranging reputations, strangers carry to the whole world, and many there are who speak well of him. In a way, she's essentially telling back to Odysseus, yeah, by the way, I know that your name means like two different things. This is all, it's all left to a lot of ambiguity and left to a lot of interpretation, which is why we also sit here going, has she clocked him? Or is she at least clocking that it might be a god in disguise? Which it does seem pretty clear she is. So she's double word playing, like in this whole lead up to the tale of how did Odysseus get his name and what does his name even mean? And it's all left in this middle voice that's very ambiguous because Odysseus as a character is kind of ambiguous. Like, again, the search for identity and, like, who is Odysseus and all of that is so part of the story. Because he's, the man who, both has endured many pains, but has caused many pains. So all of that ambiguity and that sort of double talk and say one word, but keep it in the middle voice and it can mean one of two things, that's Odysseus kind of in a nutshell. So Penelope sort of plays into that in the lead up to us even getting this story. So how does Kleos being dependent on blame play with the intention not mattering specifically when it affects the gods? Oh, with the god, always remember the gods are on a different plane. The gods don't matter. Like, the gods and the humans do not play by the same rules, right? I mean, remember, we watched Poseidon start to destroy an entire civilization, even though they were showing great hospitality and Xenia to Odysseus, and even Zeus encouraged him. Zeus, who should be rewarding them for their good, Xenia is like, well, actually, your reputation feels hurt, so absolutely drop the mountain. The gods are on a completely different playing field. And when it comes to with humans and each other, blame gets murky. It depends on the circumstances. With gods, doesn't fucking matter. Because the gods are on a completely different level. Remember, they are, remember, the gods and humans are essentially not playing by the same rules. The gods are constantly cheating the rules, because they can. They basically make the rules. Furthermore, as a dweller on the fringes of society, Autolycus is in a position to see more clearly the full implication of naming. To be named is to be categorized, is to be located in a conventional social matrix, and thus, insofar as language has power to help or harm, to become the potential focus of praise or blame, of blessing or curse. To be named is to be given a socio-spatial locus, and in Homeric society, encouraged to perpetuate it temporally with kleos by the pursuit of society's sanctioned excellences. It's also to become, therefore, a focus or a target for curses. The whole thing, Odysseus' name, kleos, his name, when he does the whole Autus trick, he throws all that good kleos away. He says, fuck that. Except then he's like, oh shit, that was a mistake. The whole thing with Polyphemus being able to know Odysseus' name is how he's able to so specifically curse him, right? So your name is so important in that regard. So that's the fun stuff with Odysseus' name. So at the end of the day, when you come to, is he the man who is hated or the man who brings hatred or hates others? It's kind of both. It kind of depends on context and how that verb gets used. So Odysseus' name ultimately sits in the middle voice. He is both perpetrator and victim, rather like humanity. Why did they just go with Autolycus' name instead of choosing a better one? They gave him the honor of naming. It wasn't a question of choosing a better one. It was they gave him the honor of naming, as in to say what name you choose is the name we're going with. Schrodinger's tone, kinda. Oh, there we go. So they clearly didn't dislike the name. It was very much a case of we're giving you the honor of choosing the name. And, you know, like, hey, Dad, I'm letting you choose the name, so why don't you pick, right? It would be really bad form to change it after that. So there you go. That was our big detour on that one. So it is again, a whole source of scholarship is the Odyssemenos, Odyssomai, and how that word, especially with relation to Odysseus and his name, gets used. Yeah, great pick, not consequential at all. Insane. Absolutely insane. You can fall down a whole rabbit hole just on the name and that little bit alone. He both condemned him, but also may have, made his name remarkable. It's really, in a way, it's up to Odysseus and his actions to be how that name will be remembered, right? Again, it's always kind of down to your actions. So Odysseus' name is one that could be hailed with kleos or could be cursed. It's all down to Odysseus' actions. And when he has come of age and pays his visit to Parnassus, the great estate of his mother's line, where all my treasures lie, I will give him enough to cheer his heart, then speed him home to you. And so, in time, Odysseus went to collect the splendid gifts. Autolycus and the sons of Autolycus warmed him in with their eager hand clasps, hearty words of welcome. His mother's mother, Amphitheia, hugged the boy and kissed his face and kissed his shining eyes. Autolycus told his well-bred sons to prepare a princely feast. They followed orders gladly, herded an ox inside at once, 5 years old, skinned it and split the carcass into quarters, deftly cut it in pieces, skewered those on spits, roasted it all to a turn, and served the portions out. Basically, we're having souvlaki, which sounds like a good time. Now I want souvlaki. So all day long, till the sun went down, they feasted, consuming equal shares to their heart's content. Then, when the sun had set and night came on, they turned to bed and took the gift of sleep. As soon as young Dawn with her rose-red fingers shone once more, they all moved out for the hunt, hounds in the lead, Autolycus' sons and Prince Odysseus in their ranks. Climbing Parnassus' ridges thick with timber, they quickly reached the mountain's windy folds, and just as the sun began to strike the plowlands rising out of the deep, calm flow of the ocean river, which, yes, is Oceanus. We talked about it with regards to the underworld. My father's the god of luck. I'm going to gamble on him. Let's call him Odysseus. Ah! Nice. The beaters came to a wooded glen, the hounds broke, hot on a trail, and right behind the pack they came. Autolycus' sons, Odysseus out in front now, pressing the dogs, brandishing high his spear with its long shadow waving. Then and there a great boar lay in wait, in a thicket lair so dense that the sudden gusty winds could never pierce it, nor could the sun's sharp rays invade its depths, nor a downpour drench it through and through. So dense and so dark and piled with fallen leaves. Here, as the hunters closed in for the kill, crowding the hounds, the tramp of men and dogs came drumming round the boar. He crashed from his lair, his razor back bristling, his eyes flashing fire, and charging up to the hunt he stopped at bay, and Odysseus rushed him first, shaking his long spear in a sturdy hand, wild to strike, but the boar struck faster. Lunging in on the slant, a tusk thrusting up over the boy's knee, gouging a deep strip of flesh. But it never hit the bone. Odysseus thrust and struck, stabbing the beast's right shoulder. A glint of bronze, the point ripped clean through, and down in the dust he dropped, grunting out his breath as his life winged away. He got really lucky that didn't hit bone. I mean, I think anybody who's injured their knee area can tell you, oh boy, good thing we didn't hit your kneecap. Ugh. Dude, got named like a fanfic OC. I mean, so many of these characters all have like really significant names. Their names all do mean something in a way, so kind of everybody got that. It's like the eternal joke of like Prometheus and Epimetheus, foresight and hindsight. Gee, I wonder what they will or won't have in their story. The sons of Autolycus, working over Odysseus, skillfully binding up his open wound, the gallant, godlike prince chanted an old spell that staunched the blood and quickly bore him home to their father's palace. There, in no time, Autolycus and the son, to their father's palace, so to Autolycus' palace. There, in no time, Autolycus and the sons of Autolycus healed him well, and showering him with splendid gifts, spread Odysseus back to his native land, to Ithaca, a young man filled with joy. All the Tide Boys. Oh my god, yeah. All of the significantly named dudes from Phaeacia, Scheria. I always want to call it Phaeacia. Whoops. Scheria, yeah, all of their names. Well, here's the thing. Homer didn't invent the idea of Odysseus, right? Like, Odysseus has been around before this. This is clearly a myth he's recounting that would have been well known to people. Welcomed him home and asked him of all his exploits, blow by blow. How did he get that wound? He told his tale with style, how the white tusk of a wild boar had gashed his leg, hunting on Parnassus with Autolycus and his sons. Yes, Odysseus has had the gift of gab for a while. Are we shocked? No, we're not. We're not shocked at all. That scar, as the old nurse cradled his leg and her hands passed down, she felt it, knew it. Suddenly, let his foot fall, dropped it down in the basin. The bronze clanged, tipping over, spilling water across the floor. Joy and torment gripped her heart at once. Tears rushed to her eyes. Voice choked in her throat. She reached for Odysseus' chin and whispered quickly, "Yes, yes you are, Odysseus. Oh, dear boy. I couldn't know you before, not till I touched the body of my king." She glanced at Penelope, keen to signal her that here was her own dear husband, here and now, but she could not catch the glance. She took no heed. Athena turned her attention elsewhere. But Odysseus, his right hand shut out, clutching the nurse's throat. With his left he hugged her to himself and muttered, "Nurse, you want to kill me? You suckled me yourself at your own breast, and now I'm home at last after bearing 20 years of brutal hardship. Home on native ground. But now you know, now that a god has flashed it in your mind, quiet." Is this my king meant to feel like my baby boy? Yeah. It's equal parts like my baby boy and also my king. Because remember, she was his nursemaid. So she has a really unique relationship with Odysseus. Kind of in the same way that like Eumaeus was like treated uniquely. He's a different level of dolos. The same is kind of the same with Eurycleia. She is obviously like a dolos, but she's special, right? So she kind of also by benefit of being aged and having been his nursemaid kind of gets to be like, oh my god, my baby boy, but it's my king because there is still the societal difference. She's not his actual mother, but yeah. "Not a word to anyone in the house, or else I warn you, and I mean business too, if a god beats down these brazen suitors at my hands, I will not spare you, my old nurse that you are, when I kill the other women in my house." Yeah, so this may seem really intense. Where are we in the book? We're 554. So this may seem really intense where he's like, I will not spare you, because this is all right now about loyalty. He's still gauging who is and isn't loyal, right? And he's like, you may say all this now, but if you fucking rat me out, if you prove to not be loyal, I will kill you in the same way I'm gonna kill them bitches who were rude to my wife and rude to me and being terrible. So this is not unreasonable for him to say. Yeah, she's having a great reaction. Yeah, he's on the finish line. Every detail matters. She may be reacting like this, but who's to say she won't turn around and rat him out? Now, he doesn't believe she will, but he's making it clear. Don't even think of spoiling this plan. Because if you spoil this plan, I will come for you the way I'm coming for all the other disloyal bitches and bastards who are here. It sounds really harsh, but there's not as pulling an Arya. Yeah, he can't be as sentimental really as he wants to be, because this is life and death. This is also his legacy. This is everything. This is the final countdown. No mistakes can afford to be made, really. And so that's why he's being as intense as he is. He's on edge in his own house, which sucks, but there you go. So yeah, that's why this can seem shocking, but honestly, it makes complete sense in the context of what's going on. Yeah, ranks being rude to Penelope worse than throwing a chair at him, which I want to applaud. I mean, honestly, the fact that Penelope was calling Melanto a bitch, I'd be like, oh, Melanto has said even worse, which I mean, we know too. Agamemnon Shade's still haunting him in the words he shared for 10 years. Now he's on full red alert. Yeah, well, it's essentially trust no one. He's in the full mood of trust no one unless they can prove they're trustworthy, right? I know, the ADHD hit. I'm like, what is he in? I'm like, I don't know, this is the final countdown. This is it. This is the end game, if you will. So he's on full red alert of he really doesn't know who to trust. I mean, here he meets these little maids who he think ought to be loyal, and they prove to be awful. So now it's Eurycleia, who's like, I'm assuming she's loyal, but I'm gonna just make it clear, don't fuck this up for me, man.
Child,
Shrewd old Euryclea protested.
what nonsense you let slip through your teeth. You know me. I'm stubborn, never give an inch. And I'll keep still as solid rock or iron. One more thing. Take it to heart, I tell you. If a god beats down these brazen suitors at your hands, I'll report in full on the women in your house who are disloyal to you, who are guiltless.
As I said, Euryclea, if you think of her like our housekeeper, having been the nursemaid, she knows everybody. And she knows everybody's business. She's the one who's got the list in her head. That one's a bitch. That one was disloyal. They're cool. They did it. She's been keeping the tally for 20 years, all in her noggin. So she's a great source to have. And also, even more so than Eumaeus, because she's been in the palace the whole time. Eumaeus is useful, but he's been out with his pigs the whole time. Euryclea's been in the palace. She's seen and heard all of it. She's, as I said, never fuck with the housekeeper. Which is kind of essentially the role she's playing. Like, don't fuck with the old one who's been here the whole time. They know everything. Don't fuck with her. She sees what the suitors don't say. She knows what the maids are saying, too. So it's not even just the suitors. She knows who on the staff is, or any of the other dolos sees, who are disloyal. Even if Penelope doesn't always see it or know it. Euryclea knows it. They are the ones who truly know everything. She kept note. She knows. Nurse, the cool tactician, Odysseus said. Why bother to count them off? A waste of breath. I'll observe them, judge each one myself. Just be quiet. Keep your tales to yourself. Leave the rest to the gods. His way of saying, hate, loathe entirely. Yeah. He's like, I'm seeing for myself. He's like, I appreciate it, but I'm pretty sure I've got the gauge on who is or isn't okay on my book. Hushed so, the old nurse went padding along the halls to fetch more water. Her basin had all spilled. And once she'd bathed and rubbed him down with oil, Odysseus drew his chair up near the fire again, trying to keep warm. But he hid his scar beneath his beggar's rags. Because we can't have Penelope clock this or we are so cooked. As cautious Penelope resumed their conversation. Old ladies do historically make great informants. Old ladies and kids make great informants because nobody notices them. My friend, I have only one more question for you. Something slight, now the hour draws on for welcome sleep. For those who can yield to sweet repose, that is, heartsick as they are. As for myself, though, some god has sent me pain that knows no bounds. As long as I indulge myself in sighs and tears, as I see to my tasks direct the household women, I take to my bed, my heart throbbing, about to break. When night falls and the world lies lost in sleep, I take to my bed, my heart throbbing, about to break, anxiety swarming, piercing. I may go mad with grief. Like Pandarius' daughter, the nightingale in the green woods, lifting her lovely song at the first warm rush of spring, perched in the treetops' rustling leaves and pouring forth her music, shifting, trilling, sinking, rippling to burst in grief for Attilus, her beloved boy, King Sethus' son, machine innocence once cut down with bronze. So Pandarius, we're talking about a gal who's named Aidon. And her name literally in the Greek means nightingale. So it's fitting, again, talking about significant names. So she had only one son, which is Attilus. Did I say that right? Is Attilus? Yeah, Attilus, or Itilos. But her sister-in-law, Niobe, had a lot of sons. And she was in this fit of jealous rage. She attempts to murder Niobe's eldest son, but tragically, she mistakenly ends up murdering her own son, right? So Zeus then turns her into a nightingale as a result, so that she essentially mourns her son in song forever. It's kind of, again, a really wild myth, but okay, guys. So my wavering heart goes shuttling back and forth. Do I stay beside my son and keep all things secure? My lands, my serving women, the grand, high-roofed house. Truce, true to my husband's bed, the people's voice as well. Or do I follow at last the best man who courts me here in the halls, who gives the greatest gifts? My son, when he was a boy and light-hearted, urged me not to marry and leave my husband's house. But now he is grown and reached his young prime. He begs me to leave our palace, travel home. Telemachus so obsessed with his own estate, the wealth my princely suitors bleed away. But please, read this dream for me, won't you? Listen closely. I keep 20 geese in the house. From the water trough they come and peck their wheat. I love to watch them all. But down from a mountain swooped this great hook-beaked eagle. Yes, and he snapped their necks and killed them one and all, and they lay in heaps throughout the halls, while he, back to the clear blue sky, he soared at once. But I wept and wailed. Only a dream, of course, and our well-groomed ladies came and clustered round me, sobbing, stricken. The eagle killed my geese. But down he swooped again, and settling onto a jutting rafter, called out in a human voice that dried my tears. Courage, daughter of famous King Icarius. This is no dream, but a happy waking vision, real as day, that will come true for you. The geese were your suitors. I was once the eagle, but now I am your husband. Back again at last, about to launch a terrible fate against them all. So really, Penelope doesn't think her husband's coming home? The girl is so clocked. She's so clocked. Okay, he's at least coming home. Thank God. So he vowed, and the soothing... Yeah, that's awfully self-explanatory. Yeah, she's like, okay, just gonna ask you this quick question. Totally out of the blue. Not totally sussing you out or anything. And the soothing sleep released me. I peered around and saw my geese in the house, pecking at their wheat, at the same trough where they always took their meal. Dear woman, quick Odysseus answered, twist it however you like. Your dream can only mean one thing. Odysseus told you himself. He'll make it come to pass. Destruction is clear for each and every suitor. Not a soul escapes his death and doom. Ah, my friend, seasoned Penelope dissented. Did Zeus give her this dream because of the eagle? Did Athena by her death signal to say, hey, listen, this is real? Here's the thing. We don't actually know if she's ever had this dream. Because we all know this whole time, she's been pretty dead set, Odysseus is probably not coming home. This could be, I would argue. And if I'm totally off base, I'm sure Modiana will clock me if I'm wrong. I would argue this is Penelope basically pulling in Odysseus. She's posing a question and sussing out to Odysseus. So, just like, riddle me this. Just, tell me about this dream I'm having. I mean, I can't figure it out at all. Like, what do you think? Like, she's poking. She's prodding. She's finding a way to try and suss out who this guy is. Like, is it her husband? Is it a god in disguise? Yeah, I think you're right. Like, so she's posing this question. I don't think it's actually a real dream she had. I think it's something she came up with in that time. Be like, okay. I'm gonna try and keep sussing. So she's using this. Which is like, again, as we said, it's a pretty self-explanatory dream. Like, it does not take a genius to figure it out. I think she deliberately made it that way. She's like, okay, so who are you exactly? Man or god? My husband, god in disguise. Let me try and see if I can get any more details on what the sitch is. She's prodding for information. Kind of in the same way Odysseus is doing it. Like, okay, we have this problem. I think we should deal with it in this way. But, like, what do you think? Exactly. if we, clearly Penelope is clocked, this is somebody important. If it's not her husband, it's a god in disguise who's like giving her the good vibes, telling her like, nah, he's coming. So she's like, so here's my thought, but what do you think? She's essentially, doing really good interrogation tactics that are super, like, soft hand. She's not, like, going in on, she's like, I have this thought. And we know Penelope knows how to play the system. We know she knows how to talk well. We know she's loved by Athena as well. So, of course. So she's like, okay, let me interrogate you this way, in a way that doesn't feel like an interrogation. The womanly wiles, if you will. Searching his face for any tiny... Oh, yeah, like she's reading micro-expressions. Like she's looking at him, she's keeping calm, cool, and collected. And she's like, riddle me this. I have thoughts, but what do you think? And even now she's going to push back against him. Yeah, if someone asks you if you are a god, say no. So she's engaging in debate to kind of like get these little nuggets from him. And this is going to lead her ultimately, of course, to setting her challenge, right? So she's setting up, she's refining her own plan, which is ending up working pretty in tandem with Odysseus's plan, because they be married. These two are so in sync. They're so clever, both of them. Ah, my friend, seasoned Penelope dissented. Dreams are hard to unravel, wayward, drifting things. Not all we glimpse in them will come to pass. 2 gates there are for our evanescent dreams. One is made of ivory, the other of iron, of horn. Those that pass through the ivory cleanly carved are will-o'-the-wisps. Their messages bear no fruit. The dreams that pass through the gates of polished horn are fraught with truth, for the dreamer who can see them. And just a note, the whole thing, like why the ivory gate means like these are false dreams versus why the gate of horn is true dreams. Even Fagles, when I was looking, I was like, what is that? I wonder if he's got something to say. He goes, this has never been satisfactorily explained. Like, scholars actually really don't have an answer for why one gate over the other. There must be some sort of cultural context that, like, we're just missing the information for why this means that. We haven't seen it or read it in other places. Like, we don't know why we just sort of like the Odysseus and Achilles had beef, and, like, Homer mentions it, but it's never mentioned elsewhere. We're like, okay, but Homer, what's the tea? I don't really know. Oh! But Mariana might have something for the ivory and the horn. Please, Mariana, I wait with bated breath. Girl, I don't know what's going on here either. No, literally, Fagles is like, this has never been satisfactorily explained, which means probably there's lots of theories, but nobody's been able to really satisfactorily set it. There's some etymological stuff. Ooh. Spill the tea, Mariana. Ivory and horn have the same roots as the verbs. Okay. So is this Homer punning, basically? Yeah, for now it seems generally it's kind of like Odysseus' beef with Achilles. Like, we just kind of don't know. In this case, yeah, Mariana's like, and I think even Fagles in the way he said it, it hasn't been satisfactorily explained. So, like, people have theorized, they've thrown out, well, maybe it's this. Elephas simmered elephiromai to trick. That's probably it. But since, honestly, puns, the idea that it's pun and it's wordplay, given this is an entire chapter, rather like book 9, that's all wordplay with the Arctis trick, and we're doing it all over again here. I would not be surprised if it is just wordplay. I'd wager that scholars have probably, like, I'm sure most scholars probably speculate that, but they're like, we can't confirm or deny, so we have to sit in the vagary of we're not entirely certain, but we think this. I'm guessing horn probably has something similar to, like, a true dream or whatever it is. Oh, excuse me. Horn, keras, the same as to be realized. Kraino, kraiano. You know, Mariana, honestly, I'd wager that's probably what it is. But that most scholars are like, we're not going to commit to this because we're honestly not sure. If I had to guess. Oh, I forgot this. There we go. I know, sorry, Peg. It's just getting a little dark. Ain't Homer without the puns. Honestly, it is probably puns and wordplay because that's so Homer. Accomplished, fulfilled, to be exact. Ah, interesting. But I can't believe my strange dream has come that way, much as my son and I would love to have it so. One more thing I'll tell you. Weigh it well. The day that dawns today, this cursed day, will cut me off from Odysseus' house. Now, I mean to announce a contest with those axes, the ones he would often line up here inside the hall. 12 in a straight, unbroken row, like blocks to shore a keel, then stand well back and whip an arrow through the lot. Okay, obligatory time to mention, as I said back in the epic video on the challenge, and I will literally just quote verbatim, essentially, from, I can't translate as Bagels back in the Discord. Nice. Axe challenge, I will basically reiterate what I said in that particular video on the challenge, and I'm going to quote directly from Bagels. As he says, there has been much, and the much is emphasized, controversy and debate about the axes, and still no agreement amongst scholars. When Telemachus sets them up in book 21, as we will see for the contest, he digs a trench in the dirt floor of the hall, plants them in a straight line, and stamps the earth down to hold them firm. Now, many scholars have assumed that what he planted in the trenches were the axe blades, with the holes for the helves lined up. But to shoot an arrow through such a lineup, the archer would have to be lying on the floor, which is an impossible position from which to draw this bow, not to mention making such a difficult shot. We know half the challenge, really the bulk of the challenge, is drawing the bow. You can't do it while lying down. The draw weight is too high. Like, you can't do the trick of how to draw it if you're lying down, right? In any case, when Odysseus does shoot an arrow through the axes in the same book, so in book 21, as we will see, we're going to find he's sitting on a stool when he does it. So the holes the arrow goes through have got to be at least like 2 feet off the ground. The only possible solution, according to Fagles, seems to be that the axes all have a metal ring on the end of the helve, presumably so the axe could be hung on the wall. So at the end, again, like I said in the video for the challenge, there are multiple types of axes that are used in the Bronze Age, whether they are single-bladed or dual-bladed. They all have different designs because there's no, like, standard way of making axes. We're not mass-producing axes. We're not the Romans with the gladius, right? So, basically, how are the axes lined up? What type of axe is it? It's all up in the air. Literally, scholars to this day still do not agree. It's why if you ever see like film or TV adaptations of the Odyssey, they're all going to be pretty different because nobody fucking agrees. Again, that video I did initially listening to the challenge, I showed some like potential schematics and stuff that you can look at to be like, look, nobody agrees. Imagine if the challenge was to shoot an arrow through 12 layers of solid bronze, though. Get good losers. I mean, yeah, that would be funny. In this case, axe types, like where's the hole, all of that, it's all interpretation. All of it. Like, nobody's got a solid answer because we just don't know. We don't know what type of axes they were. We don't know exactly where the hole was. It's never specified, which is probably, which I'd wager is purposeful on the part of Homer, because even he would know nobody's going to use the same axe, no matter where you go. Because it would depend, you know, what time period you are, what style do you want to use, you know, where are you on the continent, like, or the islands, you know, single blade, double blade, like, he never specifies, keeps it vague, right? And in that way, he's kind of leaving it up to the listener, in his case, to put an image of how they imagine it looks. Either way, it's going to be a spectacular shot, right? Oof. Now I will bring them on as a trial for my suitors. The hand that can string the bow with greatest ease, that shoots an arrow clean through all 12 axes,
He's the man I follow. Yes, forsaking this house where I was once a bride, this gracious house, so filled with the best that life can offer. I shall always remember it, that I know, even in my dreams. Which, this is part of, she decides to put this challenge, which I think leans into the idea that she is, again, completely clocked. Either this is her husband in disguise, or it's a god that's in disguise, and her husband is really coming home. She has to assume somebody can complete this trick, right? That somebody being either her husband, who could be sitting right in front of her, or even reasonably, she could be considering that maybe Telemachus can do it. It's mostly a trick. She could tell Telemachus how to do it. You tell them the trick, he can do it, and we know that, as we will see, he's reasonably he's got a good shot. Telemachus, he who basically fights from afar. So she's clearly assuming somebody is going to complete the task. She's saying it's my suitors, and I'll go with that person. I think this leans into personally, my interpretation is this leans into the idea that, again, she's clocked that either 50% chance this is my husband who's home, or the other 50%, this is the guy who's giving me the heads up that my husband's about to be home, right? No, if Telemachus did it, she wouldn't marry him. Essentially, Telemachus would then have the right to say, I'm sending you off. Yeah, and also, way to give Odysseus time to prepare. She's giving him a heads up that this is what I'm gonna do. So if you're gonna be doing shenanigans, FYI, I'm setting the stage for you, right? Which is, it's a trick and a gamble, really, as long as don't complete it. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is this is a bow that is, you have to know the trick. And she's correctly operating under the assumption that these guys are not going to know the trick. It seems it's clearly a type of bow that was not conventionally used. Likely, not only because of the trick of how it's stored, but also because the draw weight on it is higher than other bows that would have been used at the time. So, exactly. Yeah, giving him a head start. She's like, yeah, by the by, here's my thought. Just a thought. And if it comes to the point that maybe somebody might actually string it, she could probably give Telemachus a heads up and be like, Telemachus, go fucking string this. If you tell me I gotta go back to my dad, then fine. But like, she's making a gamble, but it's a much more like, the odds are in the favor of the house. This is the house always wins kind of thing. She's like, yeah, I'm betting on myself. She's betting on her intelligence, which honestly, I would bet on her intelligence too. My money would be on Penelope. Oh. Oh, my queen, Odysseus, man of exploits, urged her on, royal wife of Laertes' son, Odysseus. Now, don't put off this test in the halls a moment. Before that crew can handle the polished bow, string it taut and shoot through all the axes, Odysseus, man of exploits, will be home with you. If only, my friend, the wise Penelope replied, you were willing to sit beside me in the house, indulging me in the comfort of your presence. Sleep would never drift across my eyes. But one can't go without one's sleep forever. The immortals give each thing its proper place in our mortal lives throughout the good green earth. So now I'm going back to my room upstairs and lie down on my bed. That bed of pain my tears have streaked year in, year out, from the day Odysseus sailed away to sea. Destroy, I call it. I hate to say its name. There I'll rest, while you lie here in the hall, spreading your blankets somewhere on the floor, or the women will prepare a decent bed. With that, the queen went up to her lofty, well-lit room, and not alone. Her women followed close behind. Penelope, once they reached the upper story, fell to weeping for Odysseus, her beloved husband, till watchful Athena sealed her eyes with welcome sleep. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Exactly. And on that snore, that is the end of book 19. Oh, very emotional, very two meeting of incredibly
clever minds, emotional, those are all the things. Yeah, girl, I know, she got a little flirty. Any questions, either related specifically to book 19 or the Odyssey book 1 to 19? Any Odyssey questions? Let's frame it that way. Still love that. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. By the gods, Odysseus. Oh, my queen. Is Penelope allowing disguised Odysseus to sleep in a more private part of the palace? No, she's doing exactly as he requested. She's basically like, sleep here by the fire. I mean, like, because he very much said, I don't want to sleep on some sort of prized silk sheets or whatever. Like, I'm fine where I am. She's like, okay. She's like, or the women could make you bed. Like, she gives him the option to be like, the women could make you, like, a better sleep. And he's like, no, I'm good. And she's like, okay, I'll leave you here. Would talk with you all night, but I'm so tired. But he's essentially kind of in the main hall area. It's just that all the suitors have gone home for the night. Oh, the payoff is going to be so delicious. It's going to be delectable, delightful, delicious. So delicious. The slaughter of the suitors is utterly delicious. That's why I love it. That's why it's one of my favorite parts. It's delicious as hell. It's very satisfying. In the Megadon. Yeah, the main hall. If he lets the maids approach, he'll kill them. Right now, he does not, I mean, rightfully so, have a good opinion of the maids. She knows. My personal opinion, but I think she knows. Again, she's got a 50-50 shot. This is either her husband or a god who's, like, giving her the not so subtle nudge that her husband is here and he's ready to fuck shit up. So, rejection part of his plotting or keeping up appearances? Both. Both, I would say, Clover. Do major suitors stay over in the palace or all go home daily? They all go home. Yeah. Well, they either go home or they're staying with somebody else. They would not stay overnight in the palace. That's bad. I say that's bad form. But most of them are from Ithaca, are nearby, or they are staying with people who live nearby. For those who are not from Ithaca, but from like the nearby islands. So all of the suitors, ultimately, like the ones we know by name, at least they leave every day and then come back, which is so fucked up. I could stay all night talking to you, and she just said, I cry all the time alone at night. Like, girl, you know. I know. She knows. She knows. I mean, by this point, I go with that she totally knows. I have to, like, objectively say technically there's like a 50-50. It could be another god, but I lean in the camp that she's so fully clocked that this is her husband. I think she wasn't quite sure, but now, like, leaning into that's why she was poking and prodding, and now she's like, yeah, that's my hubby. She goes, I think I see what's happening here. Like doing the sting nose flick. I mean, all those men staying over all the time, the question of, like, her air quotes purity and shit would probably, like, it's just, nobody wants to risk that. They would have separate accommodations. Like, those who are from, like, the different nearby islands likely would have, like, you know, find other properties or places to stay, linking up with local people who would house them. Ew. Agnes, no. Get out of here with that. Get out of here with that. It's creepy and gross. No, thank you. No, thank you. We want none of that. Yeah. Do you want to stay? Odysseus, when the fuck did I get caught? It's like, boy, the moment you opened your mouth, but okay. Yeah, she would not have made that gamble if she was not pretty much dead certain that, like, she's basically, I mean, saying she's going to set the challenge is her way of saying, I take the hint. Like, you're not subtle, I get it, I get the hint. This is the same water as last time. I'll keep going until it's empty and then refill it. But yeah, we love their domestic moment. Was it common at the time to be traveling and ask your host to suit their daughter? Would it be bad form? if you rolled up specifically to offer a suit to someone's daughter, that wasn't necessarily bad form. Now, because we're talking, these are not just normal people. These are, we'll call them nobles, royalty. The whole point is these suits, these matchmaking, I mean, they were kind of like alliances, right? So you would say, I am formally proposing my suit, and like, here's the bridegroom price I could or would pay for your daughter who I've heard of. This would be beneficial to both of us, etc. This is a thing that would happen among like the royal houses. How it would go with the common people in comparison, I'm not entirely sure, and likely it'd be similar talks, just not on as grand a scale with like political consequences. Okay, here's the plan with the thinnest layer of plausible deniability. Oh yeah, Euryclea's just like, I fucking know that scar. She's like, bitch, you sucked at my tit. You think I don't know you? It's so beautiful. The temptation is hard, but Odysseus is a man with a plan. Right now, he's like, vengeance first, wife second. I got a clean house. Trash day is coming. He's like, gotta do that first. I mean, just traveling, take a liking to your host's daughter, and then be like, I want to suit her, here's the bride price. It would be bad form to go from casual. It would probably be strange. I don't know if it would be bad form. I don't think it would be. I mean, it's a compliment. It would probably just be kind of like odd. And like more surprising, I think, than bad form. To then push and stay and be real persistent about it, that would probably be bad form if you get turned down. The god's supposed to... What? Yeah, okay, I'm really not sure how to read that question. I mean, you say half joking, but I'm like, she's his nursemaid. Nursemaids are really, really common. Obviously been around since like the dawn of time. Yeah, even though they are talking in the sense of the like, yes, pretending we don't know each other, etc., all these moments, it's like, it is nice. It's like, she's sitting there going, the banter is bantering too hard. Yeah, that's my husband. I mean, who else is gonna talk like that? Really? Other than Odysseus, the man of the words and the subtle wordplay that he got from his grandpa. He is his grandfather's grandchild. Did Euryclea have bio kids? We don't actually know. We don't know if Euryclea had children. It's never talked about. It's never mentioned. Maybe, maybe not. We don't really know. Because I don't even think we specifically say whether Euryclea is married. Now, we do know that Laertes brought her into the house, but but Anticlea made it very clear you're not fucking sleeping with her. So we don't actually know if she ever married somebody else and had children. Marriage is more often political alliances of people who liked each other. Oh, Helen and Menelaus were also very much a political alliance, and even in a way so were Odysseus and Penelope. These were all political alliances. Among nobles and stuff like that, yeah, they might like each other, but the political alliance, absolutely. Because let's remember, Moss, that women were property in this day and age. Marriage existed for the purpose of a woman passing from being under the protection and being the property of her father to passing over into the protection of and being the property of her husband. This was all business. I mean, hey, if they liked each other, great. But it was business. You, wife of Odysseus, Laertiades. It's like, gee, wonder who I'll marry, who I will be the bride of. He's like, IDK, maybe Odysseus. IDK was not me, but I'm just saying. So Helen is the most unique case because Helen got to choose her husband, which was extremely rare. Part of that being she is a noted daughter of Zeus. And frankly, everybody who came to court her, these are all great political alliances, but she made the choice. Nobody else gets the choice. It's the father approves in basically every other case. She made the choice. Seems she made a good choice. They got along, but she is a daughter of Zeus. She kind of gets daughter of Zeus privilege in that way. Because Tyndareus does, set the whole thing with we're going to marry Helen off, essentially. Her father is Zeus. Zeus would have to come in and intervene. Tyndareus is her human father, but when he gives her the choice, he's saying, yeah, I'm your human dad. Zeus is your dad. I really can't say no. But also, everybody who showed up, who's noted to be a suitor of Helen, was politically reasonably important. There was almost no bad choice there. Right? Really, anybody who came is essentially going to benefit from being tied with Sparta because they were at that time reasonably powerful. She also then chooses the brother of the king of Mycenae, a very powerful, city-state kingdom at that time. So, she chooses really well regardless, but she's also a daughter of Zeus. So Tyndareus can't really step in because her father is Zeus. What's he going to do? Say, no, daughter of Zeus, you can't do what you want? No. Penelope didn't have the choice. Icarius is the one who said, Odysseus said, hey, I'd like to court your daughter. Icarius said, beat me in a foot race. Otherwise, no. If Penelope wanted it, it wouldn't have mattered. That was his condition for anybody who came to court Penelope. And he wasn't the only one who courted Penelope. Tyndareus, the dad who stepped up. Pretty much. He was raising a son and a daughter who weren't his. 2 sets of twins. Zeus is canonically a girl dad. But his daughters, neither of his godly daughters, marry. Of the major ones. Artemis and Athena are both yeah, no, fuck men. They're fuck it, we're good. He's ugh. Knew these girls were my favorite. How did it prove he was a good husband? Fuck if I know, Clover. I don't know. That's just, look, I don't know. That's just how Icarius did it. He was apparently said to be a really good racer. Are foot races a common way to do proposals? No, they're not. Atalanta was also a unique situation because she's a woman setting the foot race, but she's kind of breaking all the gender roles and stereotypes in a way because she's also existing kind of as a hero in her own right. Icarius was just said to be really fucking fast. Multiple people had raced him for Penelope's hand at that point. Nobody had beaten him. But Odysseus does. It's not common. They're just essentially choosing, this is the thing I know I'm fucking good at, and you gotta be able to beat me at what I'm really good at, and that will prove to me you're worthy. I don't know. Does it make any logical sense? Fuck no, but you just kind of throw your hands up alright, I guess, sure. Whatever floats your boat, dude. Again, a lot of it is just you then also get to show off. The hero will then show off, oh, but look how fast I am, I beat Icarius, or, look how clever I am, I was able to beat Atalanta by distracting her, thanks God who handed me some golden apples. Be worthy of my daughter's son, menacing eye. Source, I'm an author. If it works narratively, why are we questioning? It's most of the time you just go, sure, if that's your myth logic. I know a little about Atalanta, where there are lots of parallels between her and Zeus because of the challenging gender norms. Between Atalanta and Zeus? No. No. She didn't have parallels with Zeus. because of the challenging gender norms. She's just unique in that she happens to be very good at what she does, and she exists as a hero as her own right. Now, granted, her existence does ultimately, in a oblique way, lead to the death of a whole other hero, which is Melly Yeager, but, like, we don't blame her for that. But yeah, do we know how he managed it? Odysseus doesn't exactly have a runner's build. He just beat Icarius. Doesn't seem like there was any trick. He just happened to beat him in a foot race. Hey, and you know what? You say he doesn't have a runner's build. Sprinters have thighs like tree trunks. So maybe he's just a really good sprinter. He might not be built like a marathoner or a distance runner, but maybe he's a good sprinter. Dwarves are wasted over long distances. Dwarves are natural sprinters. Atalanta was the hero raised by bears. That doesn't... Short but a quick tank. Yeah. Raised by bears. Why does that not sound familiar? Was that her? Because I knew her as having parents. There's two versions, one from Arcadia, whose parents are Iasus and Clymene. No, or King Chalaneus, she's got parents. Oh, that's right. It's Apollodorus. Yeah, she's raised by a bear. She models herself after Artemis. Okay. Caledonian boar hunt. And then Ovid does the foot race. Okay, yeah, she is raised by a sheep bear. Mama bear. I always forget that bit, because I'm like, what do you mean? She's got parents. And I'm like, oh yeah, they did throw her up there because they were like, we wanted a son! It's like, okay. It's not wolves, it's a bear. Not by bears, a bear. Romulus and Remus are the wolf babies. Go get sleep, Mary. Good night. Yeah, she was abandoned up there because they were like, we wanted a boy. And it's just like, joke's on you, bitches. What? I love that. It's like, we wanted a boy, abandon this girl, and she sets up being awesome. So she's like, fine, then I'll model myself after Artemis. Slay, queen. Slay. Slay. Slay your enemies! Yeah, most of Greek stories are careful what you wish for. Can the bear speak? No, I do not. This is not the Wicked movie. Agnes. So no. Yeah, not Narnia either, exactly. We have no talking animals. He does end up racing, like, yeah. Well, gamesmanship and sporting was such a thing for the Greeks. Atlanta's that girl? No, she really doesn't quite reach the level of Heracles. Heracles is beyond everybody, so I wouldn't call her, like, she's not like the girl. It's just that Heracles is just the guy. I don't really recall Clover. Essentially, the bear cares for her and makes sure she doesn't die. I just shrug. Don't imagine something like Dulcibert from the Wicked movie. It's like a literal wild bear. No, Amalthea could not talk. Amalthea was just a goat. that had horns that flowed ambrosia and nectar. These animals don't talk, guys. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I'll see you all later. Everybody, go get sleep. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peg sends snorts.